Good day, everyone. I today have the very wonderful, distinct pleasure of talking with Alex Agut, CEO and co-founder of HandCash. How's it going, Alex?
Hey, it's fine, Joel. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah, no problem at all. HandCash in particular got my attention because it was one of the very few wallets that I've used that's either not been Dash specific or not been a multi-coin wallet in recent times. And so it holds that very odd distinction with that. Would you mind just talking a little bit about what HandCash is and what the vision is behind it?
Sure. We say that HandCash is the Bitcoin wallet you can recommend, and that's the whole concept of what we are doing is just trying to build something that's you feel confident enough to recommend to your friends and family. So that's a way of introducing them into Bitcoin. And also, everything that's in the app, we try to make it familiar into to look like other apps that people already know how to use, and the type of menus and everything that people know how to use in a way. So if you want to send money to your mother, you know her handle, you just send money, type her handle, and just type the amount in your local currency, and it's done and sent. And we don't talk about private keys or Bitcoin address or any or confirmations or any of this stuff.
Yeah, so how does that end up working? Because everyone who's involved in cryptocurrency knows that those long public keys, those look like a jumble of numbers and letters. And how does that work now that basically every cryptocurrency I know of uses that kind of format? So how did you get around and just turn that into a handle?
Yeah. Well, our perspective with this has always been that all we think that all those features, the private key and public key and all these features of Bitcoin are great to handle Bitcoin, but that doesn't mean that the user has to do it. I mean, that's what UIs are for. You get all the complexity to the background, and you just make a very simple UI in a way that people just do what they have in mind. If I want to send you $5, I'm thinking about sending Joel $5. So you have to replicate that same thought process in the app in a way that's very intuitive, and you don't have to learn anything. So, for example, with the handles, it's not a complex system, but you have the public key, and you have um, that it generates new addresses for every time you ask for a new. So we have a server that basically does as a communicator between wallets. So the wallets are fully decentralized. Thing is that when you ask for one handle's address, when you want to send money to a handle, it just basically asks the server, "Hey, give me a new address for this handle."
Yeah, so
And
the
yeah,
server has the extended public keys of all the
yeah,
wallets.
yeah, and everything happens in the background and generates new keys each time, and it works.
Interesting. And is there and then the app itself watches the handles get so for example, say if you generate right now, if I send say a normal cryptocurrency transaction to an address, it shows
Mhm.
up in the history as you sent to this address. And if I send to 5 different addresses owned by the same wallet, it looks like 5 different addresses. But with handcash, it all displays as the same user. Is
Yeah.
that correct? And you can look up transaction history with a handle rather than uh, rather than by the
New-
actual address. Is that
Exactly.
something that's able to be done outside of the app itself, or is that just for the app users?
That. What do you mean with that question?
As in, is there some way you can like export all transactions sent explicitly to a handle with
Oh,
some
no,
kind of
no,
link?
because every transaction is the way it works is that in the op return, that is one of the fields. I know. I don't know
Hmm.
if your viewers are all super technical. I guess they might be.
Hmm.
But we just put in the op return it was an elliptic curve, whatever type of
Hmm.
encryption. I'm not the technical guy of the team, so I don't know
Yeah.
about these things. But we use an elliptic curve encryption, whatever. So
Hmm.
so the handles know that they send money to each other, but
Hmm.
nobody else knows what that ob return data means.
Yeah.
So
Interesting.
you can just decode it with your private key, and
Yeah. So essentially, it's wallet to wallet transactions are just like any other normal transactions on the
yeah,
back end,
we
but
just use
Handcash sort
this.
of runs the infrastructure on top of that makes the connections
Yeah,
between these.
we just use the server to make an elegant solution in a way that you don't have to ask for a new address. So it's basically the same if you were asking for someone on Telegram for their address, but then the transaction happens everything on Bitcoin. So just it makes it more, usability wise, it's much better to do everything inside the app than using other apps to ask for a new address and copy and paste them. But
Yes.
basically, that's what it does.
And how does it handle the idea of confirmations from a UX perspective? Obviously, back end, we know transactions get broadcast right away. They go
Mhm.
straight to the mempool. And then over time, they actually get confirmations on the blockchain.
Yeah,
And most wallets just sort of show unconfirmed or like sent, but
yeah.
like a little gray thing. How's this displayed?
Well, we check a few things. A few of them are, that if it's a valid transaction that is accepted by the mempool, and also we see that if a miner has accepted it into the mempool, and we try to broadcast directly into miners, with using with IPs. And uh, I don't know all the specific details about all that, because that's the technical guy is my co-founder Rafa. It's a
Hmm.
great, he's super smart.
Yeah, but the
But
user, what do they see when they see a transaction and it gets sent, or they
oh, they
receive a
just see it.
transaction?
They just receive it and it's done and it's there.
Yeah, that seems pretty much the same way that I mean, I've been sending cryptocurrency transactions for, what is it, 6 years now. And every time it just shows up, it's like, yeah, there it is. It works.
Yeah,
Not waiting for confirmations. It seems like it's pretty much the same thing. There are some services like exchanges that, I mean, from what I've heard, especially exchanges can be a little bit ridiculous with
yeah.
confirmations. They just say, hey, do you have like 365 days worth of confirmations before we credit your balance
Yeah.
or whatever? So how does that, I mean, maybe exchanges and services like that aren't the target, but say there's like a gift card service like Bitrefill. They want to buy a voucher and they require at least two, three confirmations or whatever.
Yeah.
And so the user says, oh, I'm going to send from my
Mhm.
my HandCash wallet. And I'm going to send to this. Yay, it's sent. But then the receiving party doesn't say it's sent. Is there like a way of communicating the difference between those two?
Receiving wallet. So far, I don't know of any BSV service that takes a lot of time to confirm. And maybe I don't know with exchanges. Maybe I don't barely use exchanges, only
Hmm.
when I buy BSV. Rarely, because we could pay BSV. So, but from my perspective, it's very different from peer to peer than giving money to a service and the service wanted. And if the service is going to handle your funds. I mean, you can try to cheat the service, but if you owe $5 to a friend, why are you trying to double spend or something? I mean, if he doesn't see the money there, I mean, if the money disappears and it's not there, you are going to contact your friend. So I mean, for peer to peer, we haven't had any case where someone has tried to cheat, even tried, because we have zero conf a zero conf system that in the cloud is looking if everything's okay, but we haven't had any case of peer-to-peer people trying to scam the other part. I mean, it doesn't happen. Another thing is that if you are paying a service or but for this case, what we do with our checkout app, I forgot to turn on this thing,
Mm-hmm.
but
Oh, that
we
looks
have this.
nice.
Yeah, we have this checkout point of sale systems that we are going to start deploying first in Australia. And the cool thing is that what we do is that basically the user just signs the transaction, but it's the receiving end that broadcast the transaction. So it's in the receiving end interest to broadcast the transaction the right way. So the user just has to sign the UTXOs and forget about it. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah,
So essentially, it's the merchant that takes care of the whole thing. So
yeah,
the odds of it, say, a double spend are very low because the merchant's the one doing the transaction. They wouldn't double
exactly,
spend their own transaction.
exactly. Either you receive the transaction or you don't.
Yes,
And
exactly.
once you receive the UTXOs, you have to check if they are spent or they are not spent or whatever. So, I mean, there are more checks than that. Again, I'm not the technical guy, but we have
Yeah.
a few checks for every point of sale system transaction. But for peer to peer, really, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. I mean,
In practice, it doesn't matter.
a lot of this, when you kind of look at it from the surface, a lot of this seems like, what does it do different? Well, nothing really. It just sends and receives like any old wallet for the end of the time. But the simplicity, the user focus is very different in terms of, to an average person, they can now send and they can do something they absolutely couldn't do before, that from their perspective.
Yeah.
Where did you get this sort of different focus that's not kind of cryptocurrency, not for the present user base, but for others? Where did you see that this was important, and how important do you see that as being?
Uh, I mean, if you study user adoption in a kind of usability of UX, or it has never happened that you have to educate the users to be able to accept the technology. I mean, the success of Apple was because they made computers not threatening to humans, basically.
Hmm.
And the success of any other company is also based on network effect, and network effect comes because it's easy to use, and you want to recommend it. So you have to focus on making everything aligned with what people have in mind. When I mean, in the end, you're just using money. It's just something that I think it's a very basic concept, but people are, I think they forget about it sometimes, because all my I use Apple Pay all the time, and it's super simple, Apple Pay. And I just have to, all the relationship that I have with money basically is tapping twice and just approach the phone, and that's it. I'm not managing wallets and sending money here to there, and I have all the payments automated for all my services and power bills and all that stuff from the bank. So my relationship with money is not that big. It's not that you have to create wallets with that you have to tweak and manage all kinds of stuff. In the end, you just want to pay for stuff online, earn money, send money to friends or wherever, and pay in stores. That's it.
Yeah, and
And
so you don't see this as something that everyone has to learn how to master Bitcoin or
no, they
start learning
shouldn't.
all this stuff.
I mean, if you want to create an awesome Bitcoin app, and you want, well, and that's another issue. But if you just want to create a Bitcoin app from scratch and you have to learn Bitcoin, yeah, sure, you have to get educated on how Bitcoin works. But as a user, I mean, if you're just using it as money, there's no there's no point in trying to teach them about mining or confirmations or whatever. It's just, I mean, it doesn't make any sense. It has to look exactly like the current money apps that already are there, in a way that people start using it.
Yeah, so it seems like a fundamentally different point of view from the whole run your own node, buy your little Casa HODL Lightning
Yeah,
node, and then go start participating in those kinds of things. A
yeah,
fundamentally different point of view, huh?
yeah. I don't think that approach is going to happen again. I don't know. I cannot see the future, but um, someone said once that history does not repeat itself, but it does rhyme.
Absolutely.
So I don't think that's the right approach to make everyone spends 300 euros or something or $300 on these boxes to have it at home and configure your just to use it as money. Rather use Apple Pay. I would.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the one thing is I don't have a technical background. Had learned a little bit of JavaScript and some HTML in the past, but it's really bad. I'm not a coder. I'm not a nerd, or at least not by the more modern definitions. And so, what got me interested in cryptocurrency was precisely this kind of thing of going out to eat with a bunch of friends, and then someone decides to pay the whole bill, and everyone else just sends them their small amount peer to peer in Bitcoin. And back in 2013, just seeing that happen was like, this is going to be huge because I can't do this. That kind of predated a lot of payment apps, but also
Yep.
just that this was, you don't have to sign up, you don't have to give your ID, you don't have to put in a whole bunch of other information, you don't have to get approval. There's no friction, there's no fees. It just, that kind of thing was like, wow, this is going to be huge, especially because I was into gold. And what got me specifically interested in Dash was the whole idea of pretty much a lot of the stuff that you're doing with HandCash, which is you have to be able to send to a username, because the friction of where you say there's someone who's busking, he's playing music on the streets, and then you say, oh, that guy's cool, I want to send him some money. You can put some cash in, but if you don't have the cash or you can't make change or whatever, look, let me just send him some. Well, what's his address? Well, it's this big long, this big printed QR code that the light might be weird on, and then you just scan it and you're like, all right, here goes nothing, and kind of send that. And just there's always this friction, and just from getting money from the computer to my phone has always been a little tricky, because it's like, well, how do I scan the QR code that's on my phone screen with my webcam, or like, how do I do it that way? And just the username kind of setup, especially like in a decentralized way.
And
It's
maybe
just something that really got me.
and from person to person, user is even too much.
You think so? So contactless, is
Other
that
way
what you're thinking?
and other things, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's another thing. Of course, whenever you're trying to do something in a decentralized kind of way, a lot of problems that happen in the world are easy to solve through a centralized solution. It's easy to just say, I'm going to solve it. This is the way it's going to work. The problem when you're doing decentralized is the decision-making process is difficult. So, for example, username camping. Have you had any kind of problem with that, where someone, say, registers a whole bunch of handles, and then they hold on to that, and then they hold them hostage and try to sell them, and then you have someone having to do a very complicated, not intuitive handle? Have you had that problem? And if
Some
so,
have tried.
what are you doing about it?
Some have tried, and the only solution we have right now is that in the future, and also for other benefits that will come with it, we will have to tie, be it an email address, login information with Twitter or something. We have to tie something to your handle, and we
Is
will
that the
give.
way it works now, or is that a future
No, no,
plan?
right now you can just install the app and get a handle, and that's it. And one handle for every time that you want to register one. So the thing is that what we will do, it's because, I mean, in a decentralized way, it's very hard to control that. I don't know if you in if you knew that in Bitcoin Cash they have something that's the cash accounts, I think it's called, from Jonathan Silverblood and Rob, the guy from Tipperbot. They have this system that it's, I have my, I don't know, I'm not a fan, but they try to solve this with having the username and colon, double colon or semicolon or something, and I think it was the block height or something on when that handle was registered, something like that. But not a fan of that.
Yeah,
But
and
yeah,
for
it's
display
very tricky.
purposes,
If
kind
you
of.
try to do it decentralized, not everything has to be decentralized. I mean, uh, decentralization works perfectly fine for what you said about the freedom of just installing an app and be free to send money here and there and whatever without ID. And that works even better for allowing startups like mine to create financial products without having to apply for many regulations. And that will create a lot of new, and it's in fact it's doing it, a new way, a ton of new ways of sending money around, or games with payments, with micropayments integrated, or IoT applications. I think what's great about Bitcoin is that it gives us the freedom to just tap into this financial system without any friction, and then uh, create with upon it with with almost no regulation at all, and we can just create apps for our users. That doesn't mean that everything that our users do has to be decentralized. I mean, that's our point. That for us, it's awesome that it's decentralized. The thing is that if decentralization creates problems for our users, it's not something that's desirable in some cases.
Yeah, so essentially, the main goal is to have the back end, or more importantly, the protocol itself is
Hmm.
got to be decentralized. People got to be able to
Sure.
use it. It can't be censored, etc. And then
Exactly.
whatever people build on top of that can be as centralized as they want. And then the
Sure.
free market will decide what people
Sure.
decide to use and what they
even
don't.
even if you create a decentralized wallet, it's going to be centralized because the people in charge of creating that decentralized wallet are making the decisions of the format of everything, and if you and how often the addresses are renewed, or so they are making all of those decisions for you, so you already have a centralized point of of failure there. So I mean, it is just Bitcoin jargon. In the real world, and if you talk with investors, and they don't give a crap. They just want people to be happy, the traction. If people are using it, if they are not using it, if people understand the concept, if you are providing value, if you have your product is protected, so we can give you money, and we know that nobody's going to just replicate what you're doing. So in the real world, nobody cares about centralized or decentralized. The thing is that it's great for us, the part of decentralization, because it's great for us not having to store our users' funds. So
Yes, of
we
course.
cannot get hacked,
That's a
and
nightmare.
yeah, we cannot get hacked. I mean, we just have public keys or whatever. But I mean, also we have we have a lot of protection in there, and also we renew many stuff very often. So we just have some systems in place to make it as safe as possible, the things that we have, but we don't have any compromising data of any of our users. And I think it's great for us. That allows us to create a financial product without having to be a you know money managing business.
Yeah,
Makes it
now
everything more simple.
on that sort of subject of the splits and of difference of opinions and philosophies, this is something that got rolled out during the time when there was just Bitcoin Cash, and then there was a big split, and a lot of people started getting very angry with each other. A lot of people started fighting and trying to destroy each other's chains and things like that. It was a lot of crazy stuff going on
Yeah,
then, and
too
I
crazy.
I kind of watched from a distance, just seeing, and I had some friends on both sides, which is it's very, I guess it's encouraging to a certain extent when you see, you're not pigeonholed in just one perspective. But I've seen all that crazy stuff. So Handcash went with SV, which one could call the minority chain if you just talk about, say, market cap and transactions right now.
We don't
So
care
yeah, so where did that
at all.
that decision come from? What happened? Why was the majority chain just not going to work for you?
Okay, so uh, one of the most important sites was the patent side. So I mean, Engine has a ton of patents that also that we already use, and others that we want to use, and that give value to what we're doing, and help us to get to raise more funds. So the parent side was one of them. And also we saw, I don't know, SV is all about trying to create a stable protocol, and that's very reassuring for companies like ours, because we don't want to change, transaction reordering or wherever, or now it's point of proof of stake, and now it's a mix, or now it's whatever, and everything's changing every now and then, and there are failures, and we have to adjust the new wallets, and we just want to provide these services to people, and Bitcoin already works for us. We just need more scale so we can get more people in. But I mean, yeah, block propagation, all that stuff, yeah, but I mean, Bitcoin SV has been proving that you can propagate blocks. I mean, they had continuous 128 megabyte blocks during 24 hours, and every now and then we have now 56 megabyte blocks, or 26 organically. I mean, it's not stress test, it's just like people are using the network. And we just wanted to be on the side that's more business friendly, that understands regulation, that has the patents, that attracts investments, and also Squire mining from Calvin. That's going to be a huge company. It's going to be a huge company. They're doing the right moves. And also we have the first Bitcoin based bank in Bitstocks. And there are some other companies that are super amazing that are working on ERP solutions. And I don't know, we are very confident about what we're doing and this chain, and we don't see any reason why we should have stayed with Bitcoin Cash, really. I mean, it was I wish we could all stay together and
Of
under
course.
this same flag, to say it that way, because the network effect that we were achieving together between BCH and, well, it was just BCH, but the network effect that we were achieving with Bitcoin Cash, it all went to hell for both sides. We
Hmm.
had to start over both sides, and it's been a bit tougher, but to be honest, we didn't care that much, because we know that this is for the long term. We do not expect to make huge amounts of money in the near future. I mean, in 1-2 years or something. uh, this is There are a lot of issues to tackle and to solve before this is appealing for regular people. I think that, and also because I think that due to the halvening and all this other stuff and maintaining the network, we think that a network that appeals to enterprise usage, be it as a universal ledger or something like this, it's uh, I mean, it has more chances of survival against some of those events. So we
Yes, of
feel
course.
much more confident with Bitcoin SV than we've ever felt with Bitcoin Cash at any point.
Yeah. Now, one thing that, of course, is in everyone's mind these last few months, especially, is the idea of 51% attacks. That it's easier, especially when the markets are low, to perform successful attacks in attack chains. Now, you have some of the big players, say, like, Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever, that seem to be relatively insulated since they're at the top of their algorithm.
Hmm.
Now, SV is sharing Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash's algorithm, and from my personal perspective, and just from where I'm looking, because I haven't gone too deep into this whole thing, I'm just seeing that any major miner of a competing coin could just wreak havoc on the network at a moment's notice if they really wanted to. And I don't have a lot of background, like in the background perspective on that. But does that ever worry you that, like, say SV becomes very popular and have some malicious people that just think, on one of the bigger SHA-256 mining
Hmm.
algorithm coins, saying, "Oh, well, they're gonna destroy all our profits at some point because they're gonna obsolete us. We need to kill them now and then just attack the network." Is that ever something you're worried about when developing on SV?
No, not really, because and and every day we are more confident about this, and even though as you said, the hash rate is not that big, but one thing, uh, maybe someone could try to screw for a while, but it's going to cost them a lot of money to do it, and it's going to just last for a while, because CoinGeek and they don't have everything turned on all the time. I mean, they don't have all the hash power that they could add to the network. They just uh, because it's expensive, for electricity, the electricity bills and all that stuff. But they have much more hash rate and it's on, because they simply don't need it
So it's
to be
like
turned on.
there's a lot of extra, like
Yeah,
a
but
security
but
backup kind of waiting just in case.
sure, but it's not just because of that. But I think it's the economics of miners know, or at least should know, that Bitcoin SV is the one that's willing to give them the most money in the long run,
Mm,
because they want big blocks. They are pro miners, miners first. They understand that it's very important to keep the miners happy, and Lightning is not going to make them happy. Small blocks are not going to make them happy. Proof of stake is not going to make them happy. So I think it would be just like shooting themselves on the foot to attack Bitcoin SV. I think it's
so
not
it's
in there. So
basically,
I think in the and I talked with some miners about this. They are pro BTC at the time, because it's more profitable at the time because of the market value, but they are just squeezing the lemon. And once the lemon, there's no more juice left, you just get rid of the lemon
of
as a whole.
course.
So they are just trying to squeeze the lemon, the few drops that are remaining. And but it's not if it's not profitable for them, they will just switch. They couldn't care less. I mean, it's whatever people use, and it's profitable for them.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's kind of a different approach that some projects want to be like, say, isn't Litecoin the top of its own algorithm as well? Some other coins want to be have that as a security model. This seems to be kind of the opposite of make it so that everyone would want to help and not attack. To where, for example, say you have BTC miners, and I know a lot of them have had severe problems with the path of BTC, but keep mining because it just makes sense right now.
Yeah,
And
it's
it's
all
kind of like
economic.
having a
Yeah,
whole bunch of infrastructure that doesn't have to be built up
yeah,
specifically around BSV, but rather just is just ready to switch over if that ever happens.
yeah. I mean, eh, we are talking with a lot of big companies, and just imagine if we could have medical records, criminal records, we could have ERP, SAP applications running on the blockchain, and that would be terabytes and terabytes and terabytes of blocks continuously. That's and I mean, BTC cannot compete with that profitability.
More importantly, it will not, I think.
Will not, will not.
Yes. It's so when you had the switch over, I only ever used HandCash when it was for Bitcoin Cash. I just kind of used it then and then
Yeah.
set some money around to a few different people and then did something else. Did you have any problem with users that wanted to use BCH and then now they can't do that with their handles anymore? And they say, I worked all this time to like build up all these handles, all these connections, and like now I just have to go back to addresses because that ship sailed over to something that I don't want to use. Did you have any of that or concerns about that?
There were 34 people that uninstalled the app because of that during the fork. I mean, when we announced that we were switching to BSV, so out of the thousands of users that we had, we just had 34 people that were very pissed off.
Hmm.
So yeah, short term it was a bit painful maybe for them, and we get a lot of emails and a lot of I still have contact with. I think I still have more friends in BCH than in BSV, you know, or maybe not more, but I am very good friends with many people from BCH, and people miss using HandCash, and I understand it, and it was very tough for myself personally, at the time because you know I didn't want to disappoint our users because we have very loyal. We have always had very loyal users that recommend our products and very enthusiastic. And it was very painful for me to just to accept that we have to let go some people will be pissed, but you know this is a business and you have to just make the what's right for your business. And yeah, it was kind of at least it wasn't just it wasn't many people, but you know, people that you used to talk in Twitter very often, and they just change from one day to another into attacking you. And well, I kind of
What happens
expected
with
it,
the
but it was tough.
politics? Yeah, it
Yeah,
happens. But
politics. Yeah,
from those numbers, it seems like it was the right decision then. I mean,
I
do you
think
do you,
so. Yeah.
do you think that if you had decided to go the other way, which I mean, as you already mentioned, is not exactly an easy choice to make, but do you think that a lot of people were just more hand cash users than they were Bitcoin Cash or Bitcoin SV users?
No, I think we would have we have more users now than we would have if we would have stayed in BCH. Although I don't know, we are not that big, but I know, but we were one of the first to announce that we were siding with SV after Money Button and Sendby. And I think because of the three of us stuck to using just BSV, many others well, Memo is using both, but
Hmm.
Matter and Hiver and all these other apps sided with BSV too. I don't know if besides Purse there's any other that's sided just with BCH. But anyway, we think it was the right decision, and maybe we convinced others to join us in BSV too. I hope
Yeah, interesting.
we
Well,
tried.
that seems like the best situation that can come out of an ugly thing. And of course, in my perfect world, and people say, because of I've been so hard pushing Dash all over the place for a few years, people
You do
forget
a
that I
great job.
well, thank you. But people forget that I pushed Bitcoin for longer than I did Dash so far. It's my flippening is coming soon. But we all sort of, by making what we believe to be our right choices here, we all abandon Bitcoin's giant market cap and network effect because, in my view, and I'm probably all of our views, they kind of abandoned their own network effects. I do remember
Yeah,
in late
I
in
agree.
2016, especially, there was just so much going on in Bitcoin. So many people, so many merchants, everyone's just running around doing things. And then that kind of all, I feel like we're like early 2014 era now. I feel like we lost a few years in terms of adoption. And so, yeah, I mean, that's completely understandable about, you have to go the right way. Now,
Yeah.
that's most exciting to you are you working on now, or would you kind of like to roll out in HandCash?
Oh, we're working on so many great stuff.
What's the
What?
big one?
Hmm, I think the big one. Hmm, I would say is the overall change of focus from a traditional wallet to an an action focused wallet. I mean, we want to make it in a way that the funds managing and history and all that stuff, it's a secondary thing. And when you enter Handcash, just like there's so much that you can do with Handcash, and it's still super simple. The thing is that we just change the focus, so we have to kind of choose which other things to display instead of what you currently have in your home screen.
Mhm.
But I think the biggest change is the focus on, hey, we have to make a push in usability right now. Not usability, utility, I mean. In You have to be able to do things, and it has to be clear once in the first moment that you open the app, and it will have to be just as easy to use or more than it ever was. And also we are going to start rolling out these point of sale systems, and it's super cool because it will be with NFC. Just tap and go. We, well, it will have it will have a couple more payment methods that currently do not exist in cryptocurrency and are very very cool, and we are working on them. And it will be also compatible with this point of sale. And also we are going to make a strong push with Cashboard, with a third party app connection. So we have at the time we have just a few apps that connect with HandCash, but it's cool because without having to confirm or use your phone, you are using that app and you're just paying the for anything, or you are getting charged by the minute for watching a video, and everything happens in the background that you don't even have to open your wallet, and everything is automated in the background, and it's everything decentralized. So we are not touching your money. So it's a very interesting technology, this Cashboard thing that we have. It's
Interesting.
basically automated micropayments in the background, and it works and it's very. The focus with that was to create a tool that allowed people to create apps and games that that would be able to use Bitcoin micropayments, but without having to understand Bitcoin or creating a wallet or having a user's funds or having to maintain the network I mean the having to maintain a Bitcoin implementation. So you don't require any previous Bitcoin knowledge to create something like a Twitter with built-in tips, and everything is handled by HandCash in the background. And it's awesome.
Interesting. That seems like creating a smooth ecosystem where eventually people don't really realize that they're doing crypto, that
Yeah,
eventually crypto becomes a meaningless term because it
yeah.
kind of is what we all use.
We don't use that word, in fact, and
Do
we
you have a
are
substitute word you use?
what
You have a substitute word you use instead of crypto to
money.
just money.
Yeah,
Interesting. Yeah, definitely it's not the predominant thing people think about with money today, but if you're
yeah,
going to replace that, that sounds like a worthy
yeah.
ambition.
I mean, we're still have a ton of things to overcome. Like the access to BSV, and well, we will add direct Bitcoin purchases from the app.
Mm.
Uh, uh, but we are not going to call it buy Bitcoin. We are going to call it top up. So you're topping up your funds. I mean your wallet. So you have to also be very careful about the language that you use, because ultimately you want to use the same language that your friends or your mother or your uncle, whoever, uses when they are referring to money. We are very careful on that.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes sense. Well, thanks very much for this has been an enlightening chat into the world of a world of crypto that's
Mhm.
not very commonly talked about. A lot of people are talking about when are we doing Schnorr signatures and a whole bunch of things like that.
I don't even know
And
what is that.
yeah, well, there you go. I think very few people do, and all that stuff is very important. But it's refreshing to get a user based front end kind of a perspective.
Oh, thanks for having me. And can I say a couple of things about Dash?
Yeah, sure.
Positive things. So Dash was one of the alternatives that we were looking for. We were looking at when we were looking for an alternative for BTC, because our first version of HandCash was running on BTC, but it didn't work. So Dash was very interesting, mainly because we saw that it has a strong brand. I mean, I love the brand. It's awesome. I wish we had that brand for us. And another thing is that we were reading about everything that you were going to do with Dash evolution. But the thing is that everything seemed to be very far away when we started this. So we ultimately thought that Bitcoin Cash was the better choice at the time. But it was very close. Was very close. So I'm I'm not a Dash hater by any means. So I
Well,
just wanted to let you know that.
very cool. And my personal perspective, probably the perspective of a lot of people, is we're all sort of after the exact same thing, at least as far as the peer to peer digital cash
Yeah.
group. peer-to-peer digital cash the whole world can use, and it's kind of the free market of deciding to pursue the micro brand, I would say, not even the macro brand, but the micro brand and approach that we each individually believe in the most. But ultimately, the market will test our beliefs. It's not
Exactly.
the market is facts. Our beliefs are the hypotheses that need to be tested. So
Yeah.
where can people find more out about HandCash? Where do you want to send people?
Oh, just find us on Twitter at HandCash app, or maybe enter our website at handcash.io.
All right, perfect. Well,
All the
thanks again
information
for
is there.
sharing your time.
Okay, thanks, Joel.
Yep.